Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live stream today with the IHE and Huntington University. I'm here with Brianna Burkle. My name is Amy Sager. I'm on the board of directors for the IAHE, and I'm also the publications director. And I'm excited to have a conversation with Brianna today about leveraging dual enrollment for student success. So Brianna, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then we'll jump into talking about dual enrollment.
Yeah, of course. So I am an admissions counselor at Huntington University. I kind of am over multiple different departments. So I'm a senior admissions counselor. I also am the international admissions counselor, but I also am the homeschool liaison and the early entry admissions counselor. And so really that means I'm uniquely passionate about dual enrollment credits. That's what we call our dual enrollment system here at Huntington is early entry. And so I'm super used to handling those credits, helping students get early college classes, and I'm excited to talk with all of you about that today.
Yay, that's exciting. Well, we can't wait to hear what you have to share. And I know a lot of parents are going to benefit from this. So let's get your presentation up.
Yeah.
And you can go for it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much again for having me. Like I said, dual enrollment credits, they are so helpful in so many ways to student success, especially when we have some tips and tricks to utilizing them in the best way possible. And so really that's the goal of this presentation today, is just to give you guys some advice about how to really maximize the results of your students' dual enrollment credits, and also to talk about some of the benefits. So up first, we can go ahead and talk about some of the tips and tricks. And sorry, I think I made that go away there for a little bit, but there are three main tips that I like to give families. So first, on the right side, you'll see this is kind of what we call our checklist. And so when a student enrolls at Huntington University, no matter what their major is, they have a guide that's kind of like this, and it lists out the different classes they have to take. So I put a communication studies degree up here, but like I said, there's one for every degree. And really today we're going to be looking at the left side, the core curriculum, and that is all of the classes that every student has to take regardless of their major. And so although this is what Huntington's looks like, almost every university that your student is looking at will have something that looks pretty similar to this. So as you are starting this dual enrollment journey, the first piece of advice that I have is to mix it up. So you'll see on the left side, that core curriculum, there are all different kinds of classes that students are required to take. So we have some academic writing and research classes, public speaking, philosophy, psychology, sociology, probability and statistics. And so really one of the mistakes sometimes that I see students make is that they end up taking a lot of dual enrollment classes for the same type of class. So for example, I had a student who came in with about 32 dual enrollment credits, but they were all different kinds of math classes. So the student had taken, Algebra 2 dual enrollment, probability and statistics, calculus, trigonometry. And so although they had about 32 credit hours, it only satisfied the one mathematical science course. And so the rest of them did count as electives, but the student would have been much better served if they would have taken a science class, a math class, a social science class, and so they could hit the different requirements in the different departments. So my next piece of advice is to keep it simple. And really what this means is we recommend taking about the 100 and 200 level classes. And really that's because once you start getting into the 300 and the 400 level classes, there are a couple issues that come up. First, the 300 and 400 levels, they're built off of the foundation of the lower level classes. And so some students, they might struggle without having the prerequisites done. But even if they're working their way through the prerequisites as a high school student, something that we see at different universities is that once you get into the upper level classes, universities might not accept those credits as easily. And really, this is because they want to make sure that they are guaranteeing the education of their students. And so they want to make sure that the upper level department specific classes are being taken at their university. So again, to really make sure that the dual enrollment credits transfer as easily as possible, we recommend sticking to the 100 and 200 level courses. Then third on the list is try it out. And this actually might be one of my favorite tips that I give students. So dual enrollment credits can be an awesome way to try out a major, to try out a degree. So this one is going to vary a little bit depending on if the student is taking an online class or an on-campus class. And really, the online classes, they are great at taking some of the core curriculum requirements and getting those satisfied. But if your student has the option to go to campus, really that's when they can start to take some of the 100 level, for example, on this checklist, 100 level Introduction to Communication. Or here at Huntington, our early entry students have the opportunity to take Introduction to Digital Media Arts, or maybe even Introduction to Criminal Justice, Introduction to Social Work. And so if your student has a major that they might be thinking about, utilizing that dual enrollment credit as just a way to try it out can be really good. And they either will learn that, yes, this actually is something I'm really interested in, or actually, this isn't really what I thought it was going to be, and I think I'm going to look for another major. And either way, they've learned something, and typically the dual enrollment credits are billed at a lower tuition rate, and so they've learned something for less cost than if they would have gone into their freshman year without ever trying out a course from that degree. So those are our 3 tips. Mix it up, keep it simple, and try it out. And then the next slide that I have talks a little bit more about some of the benefits. So some of the benefits, we'll kind of talk about 3 different categories here. There are benefits to the admissions, registration, and graduation processes for students that have taken dual enrollment credits. So under admissions, you'll see the academic preparation. And really, I think this goes 2 different ways. So students that have taken college credits as a high school student, they're going to be more prepared for what the coursework is like in college. But I think maybe the more important piece here is that they're going to be a lot more confident as they go into college, knowing that that level of coursework is something that they have done in the past and succeeded in at the past. And so some of those nerves might be lessened as they go into their freshman year. Also, enrollment requirements, taking dual enrollment credits can help meet some of those. So here at Huntington, I'm actually really excited. We just started allowing our homeschool students to apply completely test optional. But until a couple weeks ago, we did have a specific requirement for homeschool students. They had to submit their transcript and either a test score or at least 6 credit hours of college level classwork. So they could not apply test optional. And although they can now at Huntington, every university is going to be a little bit different. And so if your student doesn't plan on taking the CLT, ACT, SAT, having those credit hours can be a really good resource. And then third on the admissions checklist is higher scholarships. So as you are creating your student's transcript, you can weight dual enrollment classes. And we have some resources at Huntington, and you can always definitely, I know my contact information is at the end of this, you can always reach out and we can help you weight those transcripts. But that's going to mean that your student qualifies for a higher scholarship than if they hadn't had those weighted grades. So onto registration. There are, like I said, a lot of benefits as a student goes through their 4 years at Huntington or wherever they're studying. One benefit to taking dual enrollment classes is that they actually might be able to add a couple majors or a couple minors. I know I did that because I came in with a lot of dual enrollment credits. So I had almost 2 semesters of my requirements satisfied right away. And so I was able to graduate with 2 majors and 3 minors, actually, because I had the space in my schedule. And so there were classes I was interested in, so I added them onto my degree list. Students also are able to take a lighter course load, and really students might do this for a lot of different options. They might be worried about how they're going to do academically, and so they just want to take some time to really be able to focus on the few classes that they have. Or other students might want to get really involved on campus in different organizations, and taking that lighter load might enable them to get even more involved. Even athletes, I know sometimes this is a worry, how the course load is going to balance with practices and games and tournaments. And having some requirements satisfied can really be beneficial in that. Or if students want to work, have a job, take on some more hours during the semester, again, a lighter load can really be beneficial for that. And then finally, for the registration portion of this, internships, semester abroad, like I said, having some of those core requirements already satisfied can really free up space for students to take an additional internship or even spend a semester abroad if they're interested in that. And then finally, that brings us to graduation. So, graduating on time, I know this might be one that you question. That's totally okay. But many students end up changing their major at least once, if not a couple of times. And having some of those core requirements out of the way can really free their schedule to, if they end up switching their major, they aren't behind and they don't have to stay over a semester to complete requirements that they might have had to stay longer and complete had they not had that space in their schedule. Or, of course, graduating early. If students have some of those core requirements out of the way, they can graduate in 3 years. Or I've even seen students graduate with their bachelor's degree in 2 years. Typically, they have to take 1 or 2 summer classes as well, but it definitely can be done. And then the last one on the list, dual enrollment graduate courses. Again, this one is a little interesting and it works a little differently at different universities. But here at Huntington, we actually allow our undergraduate students to take up to 12 credit hours of graduate courses as an undergraduate student, which means that they're billed at the undergraduate rate. And so I know that can be a little tricky to kind of think about, but really they can free up space in their schedule. If they're thinking about going to grad school, they can kind of test out a class or two, see what it might be like, or even get a head start on their graduate degree. Of course, that flows a little bit into graduating early, graduating in 2 years. And then if they want to go somewhere else for graduate school, they can also get a head start on that. But I think the dual enrollment graduate courses is something really unique that HU offers, and definitely worth asking about at the different universities that you're looking at with your student. So I know that was a lot of information. I put my contact information here at this on the screen, and definitely feel free to reach out, contact me. I'm happy to help you guys through any questions that I can. And I think we actually have some time for questions now, so we'll transition over that way.
Great. Well, that was really, really good. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, of course. Happy to.
So I loved hearing you talk about just the encouragement to mix up all the classes they're taking and take a variety of classes, right? Because some students are probably thinking, oh, well, I already know what I want to do, so I'm just going to do a bunch of what I like, right? But sometimes their mind might change, or like you said, they could find that they have more credits than will actually transfer and be useful to them. So I like that advice. That's great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and always definitely be like, you can always reach out to the school that you're looking at and ask them ahead of time if the credit will transfer. So I always like to throw that out there. Almost every school, I promise, they would rather tell you at the beginning, yes or no, rather than having you take the entire course and then at the end of it say, actually, this transfers in. For example, US government at Huntington transfers in as public policy, which is kind of a unique one.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's good advice. That was going to be one of my questions. If parents want to know how do I know if I'm interested in these dual enrollment classes, how do I know if they're going to transfer to any other university? So you're saying really they need to call each university that they might be interested in and ask about that specific course.
Yeah, and some universities might have a tool online that you can enter the college and the course code in there. But any registrar office should be happy to help with that. As long as you have the course code and the institution, they should be able to tell you what it transfers in as.
Yeah, that sounds good. So what if a student comes to you or anyone else and they're interested in dual enrollment courses and they have absolutely no idea what they want to do with their
Mhm.
future? They're just interested in taking some dual enrollment courses. So should they just do eeny, meeny, miny, mo on the list of courses? Or
Mhm.
would you recommend they try to pick something that kind of interests them? What's your advice?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think for that student, I would recommend more of the general courses, just taking the psychology, the writing courses, things that are really going to be applicable no matter what degree they end up declaring as a freshman, or no matter what institution they're going to. Because almost every university is going to require them to take, psychology, sociology, even public speaking, classes like that. Of course, they're welcome. That third piece of advice, try it out. They definitely can take an introduction to one of the degrees they're interested in. But if they maybe want to do like some job shadowing or more research while they're a high school student, then the general courses might help guarantee that they're at least going to satisfy some requirement when they get to college.
Good idea. That definitely sounds like good advice. So I loved how you talked about all the different benefits, basically how they could leverage dual enrollment credits, right? They could graduate early potentially, they could add majors or minors like you did, which is a lot of fun, especially for kids that have multiple interests, right?
Yeah.
Going into it. So I think those are some great suggestions for parents to be talking with their students about. So um, I know for Huntington University specifically, you were telling me earlier that you offer dual enrollment courses year round. Tell us a little bit about the differences between spring, fall, and summer, and what are some of the different options parents can look at?
Yeah, definitely. So at Huntington, in the fall and the spring, we offer on campus courses. And so, that has benefits. Like I was saying, you can take some of the introductory classes, especially like intro to digital media arts, being able to get your hands on some of our cameras and be on our scenes, or like our scenes that we have for students to film, or even intro to art, being able to utilize our art spaces, our ceramic studio. That can be an awesome time for students. But the challenge there comes with distance to campus. It really limits the students that are able to make use of that. But in the summer, we do have online courses. And so the great thing about that is that students from anywhere are able to take those. But again, in the summer, it's mostly our psychology, English classes. We do have anatomy that students can take in the summer online, but it's more of the general core curriculum courses.
Yeah, that sounds like a great option. And do those courses run all summer long? Are there different sessions? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's different sessions. So usually we have a session that starts in May and then another session that starts in June.
Okay, a couple different options there. That's helpful. Sounds good. Um, how, if a parent came to you or a student came to you and they're not sure if they are ready for dual enrollment courses, what would you say to them?
That's a really good question. Hmm. I think it would depend on the family. And so I think there's a couple different ways that I might answer them. Because I think, it could be a good option um, to see. Like if they think that they're ready, like if they're just a little hesitant, but they're really not sure, we would maybe talk through some of like what makes you hesitant about it. Like, is it just the idea of like the college level courses? And if that's the case, then maybe we start off with what is kind of considered an easier course. And that will change at each university. Enrollment counselors, we have the awesome perspective of kind of knowing which professors are easier than other professors because it's a thing. It's so real. So if your student is worried about it, I would recommend talking to the counselor to see, like, is this class a little harder? Or is this kind of one of the harder professors? Because we would be able to guide you in that direction.
That's
The other
great.
thing,
Those counselors can be your friends.
yeah, and we want to be your friends. That's the thing. We want to be your friends. We truly do love our students. But the other piece of advice that I would throw in there is that, taking a dual enrollment class, sometimes I recommend that students take the class that they're most worried about. So, for example, English seems to always be the ones that the students I talk to are most worried about. Because if you take that as a dual enrollment class, then you actually don't have all of the other college level classes that you would have as an undergraduate student. You're still taking your high school level classes, but you have all of the support that's around you versus taking it in a new place with new, people around you. And so it actually can be really beneficial to take that hard class that you're really worried about.
I love that advice. And I have to say, I have a few kids taking dual enrollment classes now, and we have utilized that advice.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right. They don't have the full load of college classes right now. So it's a great time to take one college class and have more time to really put the effort into doing well in it. And so sometimes picking those difficult ones can be more helpful. I agree. That's a good point. All right. I think we have another couple questions in the chat here. So Jill Pike says, how easily do dual credits transfer from college to college?
Yeah, so it really depends on a couple things. It depends on the type of class. So I know we've been talking a lot about the difference between like psychology versus maybe introduction to agriculture. So that psychology class, the core courses, they're going to transfer a lot easier. Sorry, we have some construction going on if you're hearing that outside. But those typically transfer a lot easier because their curriculum is pretty broad across different universities. But the other question would be, like the type of university. And there are some, I'm not sure how to say this. So, for example, there are some online colleges that offer college credit that aren't necessarily accredited. And so that's really the thing that I would say is make sure that it's a reputable university giving out the college credit, and there really shouldn't be that many problems.
That sounds good. That's good. And Jill has another question. What does the pricing look like for dual enrollment compared to taking the course as a college student?
Yeah, so it almost always is going to be cheaper. And again, it varies university to university at what that discount is. At Huntington, however, our dual enrollment classes, they're $100 per credit hour, which is over like an 80% discount from our tuition for our undergraduate credit hours. And so there's a little difference in that we don't offer any financial aid for our dual enrollment students. But yeah.
Yeah. So the aid comes in the form of a discount already.
Yeah.
On taking the course. That sounds great. So I have a question out of curiosity here. On your website, on the Huntington website, it mentions that there's 3 different locations. Can you just tell us for fun what's up with these 3 different locations?
Yeah, so Huntington, our 3 locations, it's, our campus, Huntington, Indiana, which is our main undergraduate campus, but we actually have a doctoral program in occupational therapy in Fort Wayne. And so that's considered our second campus. And then we also have a location in Arizona, which has been really fun to see that location grow because now it includes a lot more programs than when it originally started. I know there's another occupational therapy program down there. Our digital media arts program is really thriving down there. And so those are our 3 locations: Fort Wayne, Huntington, and Arizona.
Nice. Oh, that's great. Got some expansion going on there. Good to hear. All right. Any other highlights that you want to share with us? Any highlights about dual enrollment, any encouragement you have for parents, anything special about Huntington that you want to share?
Ooh, man. Yeah, I feel like there's so much that I could share. I think really the one encouragement would just be get to know your enrollment counselor at any school that you're looking at. And parents, you're already doing the right thing by checking out this webinar and really learning how to best utilize those dual enrollment credits for your student. And so we want to be your partner in that. And any way we can help you, any resources that we can give you, that's exactly what we're here for. Sorry, I have a motion activated light, and I knew that was going to happen during this webinar. But really, don't be afraid to reach out to us. We love getting to know families, students, and just happy to help any way we can.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Brianna. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all the insight you have on dual enrollment and just the encouragement for parents and students to jump in and all the benefits there. So many different benefits to dual enrollment courses. So appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This will be up on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel for those who couldn't watch it live. And we just want to thank you again for being here.
Thanks.